Hello everyone, I am Dheeraj. So welcome to this computer networking course next video. So this video we are going to talk about layer 3 switches. So in the previous video we have discussed about layer 2 switches. What are the key differences between both of them and what are their applications. So let's go ahead with this. So today we are going to talk about layer 3 switch and difference between layer 3 switch and layer 2 switch. So let's start with that. So I hope you have already gone through my previous video about layer 2 switches. So how it works, how switching table works. I have explained everything in that. If you have not, I will put up the link in the description of this video. Please go through that video first so that you can understand it better. Okay, so we have, for example, router here. Okay, and we have one switch, we can say L3 switch. Okay, so we have LAN ports. So how layer 3 switch works is basically it works on both layer 2 and layer 3. So as I have explained in layer 2, how switching table works is we have multiple. This is the switching table at which works at layer 2 port, and this is the MAC address. Okay, as I have already explained, so I'm just quickly going through that. Okay, so we have these ports. Okay, so this is the MAC address of PC1, we can say, and like that we have. I'll quickly write that. Okay, so this is the switching table, and it does switching basically on MAC address when the packet comes from, for example, PC1 sends one packet to PC2. So the based on the port number, PC1 is not connected on a switch, so it will not enter. It will not put any entry on the layer in this switching table, but it will have one entry from the router perspective. So because it will also be instead of this, it will also be connected to some port on the switch, right? So it will have some entry based on the router. So then router will have to forward the packet to PC1, right? So but if PC2 wants to send packet to PC3, and we have a PC2 MAC address which is linked to the P1 port, so it will have. So if PC2 wants to send packet to PC4, so as PC2 is connected to P1 port, so switch will learn that particular port. Initially, it will broadcast to all the ports except the P1 from where packet came from, but it will broadcast to all the ports on switch. And for example, there are only 4 ports, and PC2 sends packet to PC3, so packet will be broadcasted, or you can say forwarded to all ports like P2, P3, P4 except the P1, okay, where packet came from. So like that, then in the first phase of the packet forwarding, switch will learn that PC2 MAC address and it will also make one mapping based on the port number. So like P1, so this will be the PC2, okay, MAC address. It will learn this into the MAC table, and when PC3 replies back with the reply of that particular request, so it will basically check, okay, PC2 is already connected to me on port 1, so it will not broadcast or it will not forward to all the ports, it will just forward to the particular P1 port. So this is how layer 2 switching, I just have briefly explained it. Okay, so layer 3 switching, how it differs is basically it does layer 3 part also. Layer 3 part, which means is like it works on IP addresses also. Okay, so it works on this also, and there is also one term we generally encounter in layer 3, which is called as routing. So it this layer 3 switch does little bit of routing as well. Okay, but the difference between layer 3 switch and router, we will go much into detail later. So how routing this layer 3 switching works is basically, so in the layer 3 switching, it will maintain one table, we can say. Okay, it will take one IP addresses mapping, and it will have a like IP address mapping based on the, it will have one table for the ports as well, ports where to forward the packet. It generally have basically 2 entries, and there are some other fields like flags and all. We are not gonna go into detail about that. So IP addresses means like, for example, PC2 has IP address of. Okay, so PC2 has IP address of 1.30 and 1.40, so these are both into the same network. Okay, but PC4 is on the different network, as you can say, two, and it is masked. We will go into the masking, but it is for, you can assume that it is a different network because it's a two router, right? Okay, so it works. This generally concept is basically based on the routing, and so IP address is basically it will track destination IP addresses. So PC2 wants to send packet to PC3 168.1.30. Okay, you can say. So it will have ports connected to it P1 and some flags. We are not gonna take care about that. Okay, it will have connected to P4. This is 2.10. Okay, so it will take learn this IP address and it will basically have some port mapping, and as well as it will have basically why port mapping, because if any packet comes from for this IP address, where to forward, right? So that's why we have these port connections. So why layer 3 routing is required? The main purpose of layer 3 switches are basically inter-VLAN forwarding. Okay, so inter-VLAN means like if you have different virtual LANs, we can say like different networks. So in this scenario, if both are on the same network, then layer three switches generally doesn't make sense. Like you can always use layer two switches, right? We have already seen the example. But if you want to forward the packet to different network, right, then we require this layer three switch because we have to send to the different network, right? We can't send from the same network to the different network, right? So inter-VLAN forwarding is basically when we want to forward. Network, right? So that's how it comes into picture, and it. So I will create a list of differences between L2. Okay, so the first one is and L2 switch basically are faster because they don't have to, no need to process L3 packets, right? It's a multi-broadcast domain. So multi-broadcast basically means we have multiple domains for broadcasting. We'll see the domains later. So I hope you got the understanding how layer 3 switches are differs from layer 2 switches. The main key point to get from this particular video is like we can also send packets to inter VLAN, right? We can have different VLAN set up at our particular location, and we can have layer 3 switch, and we can route the packets between the VLANs, right? Because that is not possible on the layer 2 switch. Okay, but it also does the layer 2 switching as well, so it will have capability to the layer 2 switching, but we can also have this so-called routing, or we can say L3 switching, right? So that's what I wanted to talk about in this video.
So I hope you enjoyed this layer 3 switch introduction video. I hope you got the idea of what are they and when they are generally used over. Okay, so that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you liked the video. So please share with your friends as well, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Thank you.